back to my Practically Imperfect Life. So today's video is going to be a little more casual, just kind of a little sit down, wrap, and chat with me. I have done almost all of my Christmas shopping. Yes. With the exception of finishing up some handmade gifts. And so I obviously have lots of things to wrap. And since we no longer do the Santa thing, that means I can get them out under the tree as I get them wrapped. And then the kids just get to stare at them for the next month until they get to open them. But there was just so many different topics that have been kind of going through my mind that I thought might be fun to talk to you guys about. And some things kind of related to, teenage things, because I have 2 homeschooling teenagers. And I know many of you either have kids the same age or kids that are kind of coming up behind us. And so today I just encourage you to, grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. If you've got gifts to wrap, sit down and wrap with me. Or if you've got things to do around the house, pop in your earbuds and just kind of listen along and let me know your thoughts on the different topics today. And if I sound a little hoarse at times, or if the video gets chopped in a place where you see it cut off and pick back up, I have been fighting a hardcore cold since Thanksgiving. I got so sick the night of Thanksgiving. It was one of those where I laid down to take a nap and I woke up and I felt worse than I did before. And Friday was miserable. And then Saturday I had no voice. And of course I had planned to do all of this filming on Friday and Saturday because I had nothing else on the schedule, and I was pretty much voiceless. So that did not happen. But feeling much better, drinking my tea. That's been my saving grace through this whole thing. And I will try to make sure that you can hear me as well as possible in the video. But I'm going to go ahead and grab the first round of gifts that I need to wrap, and we'll dive into the first topic. Okay, so first of all, let me say thank you guys for your response to the Around the World unit study video. I was just looking to put something together for my own kids. Something that was a little more age appropriate because they're in high school and kind of geared more towards the types of things that they want to do as far as watching videos, trying recipes. They don't mind doing crafts, but they want it to be a craft with a purpose. And so many of you guys have emailed me for a copy of that. I've been getting on my emails every day. I'm trying to keep up with it, and you can still request it, at any time. And I will send it out to you. It's totally free. It's just something that I created for my family and I had hoped would be a benefit for you. If you're on here and you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll link the video down below, and it's also in my Christmas playlist, so you can check it out. And it was just a study of 5 different countries that I thought my kids would find interesting. I put together a bunch of resources and links and shared about it in that video. So huge thanks to you guys for that. And I don't know why, but talking about a unit study actually makes me want to veer over to what I've been doing as far as devotionals and Bible studies. Because obviously we're doing an Advent study as a family. That's our Christmas program that we do. We do the daily Grace Co ones. And I've done individual Bible studies from them as well. I have a study Bible. I try to find lots of different ways, to study God's Word. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Bible Project at all. I stumbled across it actually accidentally years ago initially in the Bible app, the free Bible app that everybody's got on their phone. You can go into their more portion or their explore portion. It's something like that. And there were these videos done by the Bible Project, and they were intros or summaries of all the different books of the Bible. And it was really interesting because it was a really well done, voiced over animation that gave you a summary of what that book of the Bible was about, a little bit about the author, kind of helping you understand it. And I thought, well, this is really cool. And then I didn't think about it after I watched all of them. And then I was a couple years later, and it was earlier this fall, I thought, I'm going to play some of those again because I was getting ready to study some books that I just wasn't as familiar with. And I wonder if they've got anything else that they do. And I just searched the Bible Project, and lo and behold, they have their own app, a YouTube channel and podcast and all of this. So I downloaded the app, and there are just these wonderful podcast series on there. On all kinds of topics. And so there was one on the Tree of Life, and it was a 10-part podcast talking about tree symbolism and the importance of the way trees are used throughout the Bible. And one of the hosts of the podcast, he's been a student of Hebrew. Like he's really studied the Hebrew language, the meaning of Hebrew words, and how once you understand how especially like the Old Testament, how things were written in Hebrew, and the fact that it's not always translated super accurately. I mean, you have that, right? When you go from one language to another, something is always lost, or you're always kind of giving a little bit of an interpretation to what the meaning of something is. But there are certain words, you know, when you actually understand what the Hebrew word that was in the original, you know, Hebrew Bible text is, it really just opens up your understanding to so many parts of the Old Testament, and so much about like the symbolism that's used there, and this whole idea that there's, you know, these patterns that you can see throughout the different generations. And the more I've listened to these podcasts, the more fascinated I've been by this. And it's made me really want to dive into studying biblical Hebrew. And so I've went to my pastor and I was like, hey, you know, I know you had to study Hebrew to a degree. I know Hebrew and Greek is taught at the seminary he went to. I'm like, you know, do you have any resources you could recommend? Anything that might help me out? And he gave me a couple of suggestions for like books, and even like this whole like program of study. It's like if you wanted to really learn biblical Hebrew, and I'm not sure I'm like there yet where I want to like jump in and purchase like an expensive program to like, you know, become fluent in it or anything, but I want to understand more about the word choices that are used, you know, the way words are used, and what they mean in that context in terms of how they were written in the Hebrew Bible. I think it would just be really fascinating to understand that more. And so it's kind of taken me down this rabbit hole where I've been ordering a couple of books to start reading. And I've been listening to a lot of these podcasts because they do a fantastic job of like explaining, you know, how things were written in the original Hebrew. And then as you're listening to the podcast, like extra information is pulling up like on the app as well that you can read. And it's just been really interesting. Like, it's not like it's, you know, changed any of my major views or anything like that, but it's just gaining that deeper understanding. And I feel like, you know, if I spend some time really focusing on this through Old Testament studies, then at some point it'd be really great to understand more Greek and be able to look at the Greek New Testament. So when you think of like the original languages that the Bible was written in, you know, Hebrew and Greek, and to just be able to have a greater understanding of all of it, because we're lifelong learners, right? Like you're never going to be a master of the Bible. You can always learn something more. And so that's just kind of been something that's been an interesting thing for me. I don't know if you guys find it interesting, but I mean, sometimes there's just topics, right? They just grasp your attention, and you have to know more. Like, and that's how I feel. Like, I'm like really excited to know more about this. And I'm doing a really terrible job at actually getting gifts wrapped while talking. And that's probably going to be the case. I'm probably going to get like 2 things wrapped this whole time that I'm talking to you guys. So, you know, when I started to not feel well, I think it was my daughter who called me out on the fact that I had been kind of pushing really hard through things in November. You know, I've had this whole idea that I was going to just try to be as, you know, productive and on top of things throughout the month of November. So that way when we got to December, I could like take a breather and, you know, sit back and kind of more enjoy the stuff that's going on. And she's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have pushed quite so hard, Mom. I think that's why you're feeling poorly. And there's definitely some truth to that for sure. I don't know. How are you guys all doing with regards to like holiday preparations and family things? I mean, are we feeling pretty good about things? Are we stressing a little bit? You know, I wish I could say that, you know, I was going into December completely stress-free, but that would be a lie. You know, there's always in the back of my mind, like, oh, what about this? And oh, what about this? And oh, I got to plan ahead for that. And I'm really trying to make myself let go of things a little bit more, you know, and be more present and in the moment. You know, so, you know, we have our dog Squirt, right? You guys have seen him in like our day in the lives and things like that. So he's my big Labradoodle. And, he is getting a little older. You know, he's got a lot of gray on him. And he was really sick. What was it, summertime? So he had like a sudden decline in liver function. And nobody knows why. Like the vets did all of these tests. Like his liver enzymes were all out of whack. And they couldn't find, we did ultrasound, they did x-rays. He didn't have any tumors. He didn't have, there was like some sort of a viral or bacterial infection they said that they thought could be causing it. Tested negative for those. Had him on a bunch of medications, and he like popped out of it and had seemed pretty good. But overall, you know, he's kind of getting to that stage in life where he's slowing down to a degree. Like he still runs and plays outside. He still wants to like bring up his toys and have you play with them. But you know, it's for shorter bursts of time, and then he needs to sleep a whole bunch. He's just getting older, right? He just moves slower. You walk in the door and he might not get up off the couch. His tail will wag because he's excited to see you, but he's not jumping up and running to the door. And, you know, he still brings me like toys and wants me to play like tug with him and things like that. But, you know, as he's getting older, I'm realizing, you know, I'm trying to make sure that I am giving him attention and playing with him more because, you know, it's reminding me that we probably don't have a ton of time left with him or that many years left. And then you start to feel a little guilty if, like, for the times where he wanted to play and you know, were like, oh, go away, I'm busy, you know, later. And then it got me thinking back to like when my kids were little, you know, and they wanted my attention or they wanted me to come sit and play with them. And I, you know, and I would try to do it a lot, but there were just times where I was like, oh, mommy's got to do this, mommy's got to do that. And now I could kick myself for all those times I was busy with something else. And I didn't go and, you know, play dolls, and I didn't go build that Lego set with them, and I didn't go out and ride the bikes and get on the swing set and you know, and then I think those thoughts and then I start crying because I don't know why, but I'm turning into an emotional wreck a lot of times. I don't know, maybe this is just the fact that I'm, you know, I'm going to turn 40 this coming summer. And I don't know if it's like a hormone thing or whatnot, but I mean, does anybody else get that where, you know, you're fine and then you're just like crying and then you're fine, and it just keeps kind of going back and forth. So I'm assuming it's just a getting older hormone thing, but also just kind of feeling really nostalgic at times, like looking back at the past and thinking about that. And I don't know, you know. And since I mentioned the kiddos, why don't we go ahead and talk about all things teenagers for a little while? I mean, see how this is turning into like that book, give a mouse a cookie, right? You know, and then this, and then this, and then this. This is how this conversation is going to go. So, teenagers. I saw somebody else on social media asking about teens and dating. Because I think they had a teenager who was like just starting to date, and they, you know, kind of asked a bunch of questions and stuff like that. So you guys have probably heard me mention, so my daughter's been dating someone for, it's about 6 months now, like officially. They've known each other much longer than that and been friends for much longer than that, but they became official about 6 months ago. And then my son hasn't like had anything like long-term serious. He's, you know, dated a few times, but you know, nothing that's been longer than, you know, couple weeks or a couple get-togethers and things like that yet. So yet, but he just started seeing a really sweet young lady who I really like, and my daughter, like I said, has been dating the same young man for 6 months, and he's just awesome. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about teens and dating. Now, everybody's family is going to be different. Everybody's thoughts on this will be different, and I'm not here to tell you what to do. I mean, you do you, boo. And I'm going to do what we feel is right. But, you know, maybe sharing kind of thoughts on things can be helpful. I am not one of those parents who has like this fear of my kids dating. You know, I'm not completely like hands off here or anything like that, but I'm not like scared of it. Like I see it as like this is a natural part of them growing up, right? They're going to meet people, they're going to be attracted to people, they're going to want to hang out with those people, and you know, and at some point it might become, you know, a more serious relationship. Now we do have rules, obviously, you know, for their safety and you know, to protect, you know, their minds, hearts, and their bodies. So, you know, curfews are a big one. We have curfews, you know, that they need to be home by a certain hour. And if there is going to be a request for an extension of the curfew, that needs to happen in advance. You know, we need to know exactly why and all that. You know, something like if my daughter and her boyfriend are like at a show and we know it's going to end a little bit later, well, then that's an obvious, you know, okay, we understand, you know, but this is, you know, you need to let me know when you're leaving and when to expect you home, kind of thing. Being available for us to contact. That is one thing that's really nice about cell phones is, you know, I can track locations. I can call and text them and they know that they need to reply back right away or answer right away when I do that. So that way, you know, I can check in on them that way. You know, I still have all the parental controls on their phones. It kind of controls that nothing inappropriate is going, you know, coming in and things like that. It filters things. So that is helpful with that regards. As far as like people that they would like to date, like obviously I need to meet them or we need to meet them. Need to meet the parents as well. You know, kind of, you know, I'm not going to sit there and give like the parents the third degree, like tell me everything that you guys think about everything, but I want them to know who I am. Like I want to know the parents of the person that my kids are hanging out with, and I'm sure that they feel the same way. And you know, letting them know like our expectations about like, hey, you know, I don't mind if they go out to dinner alone or a movie alone or shopping alone. I don't want them to be in either of our houses alone. Like there needs to be an adult present, right? You know, if you watch, if anyone else watches Stranger Things, you know, 3 inches, give me 3 inches, like the whole idea of keeping the doors open and that kind of thing. So we need, you know, when they're at a home, an adult needs to be present, right? But yeah, my daughter and boyfriend, they go out for dinner, they go out to movies. They're actually planning on going, I think they're going to go do some Christmas shopping tonight. They were going to get together and just go to the mall and do things like that. And you know, and some people are comfortable with that like I am, and some, you know, want their kids to be chaperoned in those situations. I think it's all about knowing your teenagers, knowing, you know, having good communication with them. Like my kids know our expectations. They know what is okay. They know what is not. And, you know, I feel confident that we've raised them well with good understanding, and that if they have questions about something or something doesn't feel right, then they should come and they should talk to us about it. And so that's kind of just where we're at with dating. So I will add that I do like to look to see how it is that they and the person they're dating are kind of influencing each other. You know, am I seeing negative behaviors come about? Because if there are, then that tells me that this is not a relationship that needs to continue. Or are we seeing positive effects from this? You know, are they more confident? Are they happy? Are they, you know, I mean, am I seeing positive things, I guess, in general? For example, like my daughter and her boyfriend, they like to go to Bible studies together. They go to youth groups together. I've seen an uptick in her individual desire to study the word. And I think a lot of that is from them kind of influencing each other in that regard. And it's really beautiful to see, you know, two young people who are growing in their faith and supporting each other in that. I think that's really lovely. My son recently, you know, my son is, okay, my son's not an early bird at all. He's, you know, he just drags himself out of bed most days. But he was invited to go with the young lady he's seeing to go spend the day volunteering at the soup kitchen with her and her grandparent. And he was up and at 'em and ready, and he went for the whole day. And it was really awesome because that was something that, you know, he was encouraged to go do by her, and he's asked about going and doing it again. And I'm sure part of it is the fact that, you know, he gets to do that volunteer work with her, but still, that's a great influence to have, right? Like encouraging someone to get involved more in the community and do some good. So yes, I don't want to give too much personal information about like my kids and their dating life. I mean, that's their personal business, but I thought maybe just letting you guys know kind of where my thoughts were on things, and kind of how we're approaching it, and like our rules and expectations might be helpful. But, you know, in general, no matter what your requirements are or your rules are or anything like that, just continue to have that really good open communication with your teenagers. You know, sit down and talk with them about things, help them feel comfortable coming to you if they have questions or concerns. And, you know, and my kids know that for me, like, honesty is the best policy. Even if you do something wrong, if you come and you're honest about it, it'll be okay. Like, there might be a consequence to that negative action, of course, but it's not as bad as if you do something wrong and then lie about it. You know, for me, the fact that they would come and admit something, you know, that is my chance to offer them grace and forgiveness and guidance in that regard. So, all right, I'm going to finish up this box and then we will move on to another topic. All right, so next let me ask, how's everybody doing? Moms, are we getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, working out, eating well, or are we struggling a little bit? I definitely am struggling to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, which is probably why I'm a little sick. But you know, I have discovered that there is a phrase that I cannot stand when people say to me. Now, to put this into context, so I am a really busy person, right? And I choose, right, to be busy with a lot of things. Like, there are things, like I volunteer with a bunch of stuff at church, right? Do all the children's ministry stuff. I lead a huge troop, which involves like a lot of work. I garden, I film for YouTube, I do the baking business. Like, I have a lot going on, like a lot. And like 95% of the time, like, I'm totally cool with the busyness and kind of like the chaotic nature of things. Like, I don't want to say chaotic, but the fact that like I get done with one thing and there's another thing I need to do, or I'm multitasking and stuff like that. Like, that's just my personality. I do like to have things going on and have projects that I'm focusing on. But there are times when it does hit me and it feels overwhelming. And usually it's when there's like multiple deadlines all at the same time. And on top of that, like, I look around my house and I'm like, like it's a mess and I'm not keeping up with things and what is going on. Like, there's just those moments, it hits me and I'm like, I just can't do this. And like, this is awful. And what am I going to do? And I'm visibly stressed and I'm feeling stressed. And the worst thing that someone can say to me at that point is, you know, when I'll just talk about it. Just like, I'll say, hey, yep, this is what I got going on. I got X and Y and Z and everything. And yeah, it's, you know, it's just kind of a lot right now. And the worst thing someone could say is, well, I know how much you like being that busy. Wrong thing to say. Wrong thing to say. Do I like, in general, like being a busier person? Yes. But in that moment, when I'm telling you about how all of these things are feeling overwhelming for me right now, the last thing I want to hear is, well, I know how much you like being a busy person. No. What I really want to hear is there something I can help you with? And maybe I don't make that quite clear sometimes, that, you know, there are times when I just need help. And I'm sure we all do that, right? Where, you know, no matter what all you have going on, you know, like you don't have to be as crazy as I am to have moments where you feel overwhelmed and feel like you need help. know, it could, especially with the holidays around the corner, right? Like we have all of this extra stuff we need to do. Because let's be honest, who goes out and buys the Christmas gifts? Mom usually does. Who does all of the wrapping? Mom does. Who makes sure that everyone knows when the Christmas parties are and that the Christmas cards go out and, you know, that the family gatherings are planned and Christmas dinner is planned and that we've got everything we need for our baking day and, oh, did we remember to give a card and a gift for the neighbors and yada, yada, yada. Like, that's mom, right? That's usually mom. Okay, I won't say it's always mom. It's usually mom. Because husbands are great for a lot of things, but planning things for Christmas is not usually one of their strong suits. So it's usually us. And on top of that, we have all of the normal stuff going on, right? We got to make sure that we know when the kids have to be at doctor's appointments, that, you know, if you're a homeschooling mom like I am, we got to make sure that, like, we're keeping up on the schoolwork, that we know, you know, that the kids are getting things done, that we're doing our grading, that we're doing our lesson planning. You know, even if you kind of cut back on things, you know, during the month of December, there's still stuff that your kids have to be doing, and we're monitoring that. We've got to make sure laundry gets done and groceries are bought. And it's a lot. Like some days it's just I don't know, like it kind of feels like an elephant on your chest, right? Like, you know, like almost like a heart attack. Like there's just so much going on, and like that you're juggling all of it. And sometimes we just need help. But we're also usually the worst at asking for help. And boy, I don't know, maybe this will end up on my December goals, to be a little better about, you know, letting people know that I need a helping hand and asking for it. Because we also then get in that danger zone, right, where we need help, but we expect people to just see that we need help and to just jump in and help us. And then we get mad when they don't. And maybe that's just because, like, you know, we kind of train ourselves to look around and see what people need and to try to jump in and fill that need. I think that's maybe part of kind of like being a mom. Like, we just train ourselves to do that. You know, we see that our child needs something and then we go and we help with it. But the people around us don't always have that skill or know how to do that. And especially, you know, with our spouses, like that's a biggie. Like we need to let them know when we're feeling that extra pressure, or when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling like we need you to do something for us. And then we need to be kind of specific about it too. I think that's the other danger, is when we just like in general go, oh, I wish people would help me. But we don't specify, like, I wish they would help me with this, you know. So I always think of it that way. Like I got stuff coming up with, you know, stuff at my church and troop and stuff, and I'm going to be reaching out and saying like, hey, I need somebody to tackle this for me, or I need somebody to help out with this part of this thing, because I can't do it all by myself and keep my sanity. And at home, you know, I've already had a chat with my son about, you know, that I'm really going to need his help with all of this outdoor stuff, getting ready for Christmas. You know, one, because I'm getting older and I just can't do the whole climbing on the roof thing anymore. And then, you know, on top of that, kind of feeling unwell, like that, you know, I don't want to push myself and make myself like revert back to being really sick. My husband is really good at helping when I'm very specific about what I need help with. So I just have to be better with my honey-do list. Although I think my daughter is definitely, she's learning that skill of just looking around and like seeing where help can be given. And that's been really sweet, you know, her jumping in and helping me. So, but how are you guys doing? Let me know. Are things going well? Are we feeling the holiday stress, or are we doing all right? So I feel like I kind of went into a bunch of serious topics with this chat, which originally my intention was to talk about some more lighthearted things, and then, you know, a couple more in-depth topics there. But so I'll just kind of wrap up with telling you some pleasant things that have been going on. First of all, we did have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Even though I was sick that night, Thanksgiving was beautiful. We had family over. My grandpa was here, who is getting getting close to 90. He's got dementia, and so it's beautiful when he comes over and he recognizes you and knows your name. He's starting to forget how we're related to one another. Like, so my mom brought him over, and I was chatting with him, and he goes, Abby, he goes, now remind me, are your mom and dad still around? My mom's sitting right there next to me, his daughter, and she just put her heads in her hands. And, and it's sad, but it's also really sweet to be able to have him over and have those moments with him. He loves nothing more than to be surrounded by the whole family. And that's really what Thanksgiving was for us, is we just had a wonderful meal and a wonderful time, talking with one another. And my mom and my aunt and I were in the kitchen afterwards doing cleanup and just talking, and I loved it. That is the ideal Thanksgiving to me. And then I also, as far as like things with like my, I run a part-time baking business. I've been having so much fun putting together Christmas samplers, because I do like a Christmas cookie lineup for the month of December. I've been working on some breads and cupcakes and like mini cakes and things like that. Like, I've been having a lot of fun doing that, and the families enjoyed it, because then when I'm done with the samples, then they get to eat them. So having a good time with that. We got all of the indoor decorating done. That was a huge job. Gosh, it took me far longer than I anticipated, but it was just, November was busy with work and everything. And I did a video kind of showing you guys around the house and some of the DIYs that we did. We had a lot of fun making like our gingerbread displays. In fact, I just, we made gingerbread houses for our local gingerbread festival. My troop did, and I had baked 11 houses at the time, and we ended up with like a bunch of candy left over, which is usually the case. Like, we use a ton, but we always have a good amount left over. So Emma asked if I'd make an extra house for her to decorate for home. So she's going to be doing that today. I got the house all put together for her, and so that'll just be fun to see what she comes up with. And we went to the Festival of Trees, which is a local event where people donate these big, beautiful, wonderful themed trees. And it's so much fun to go through, and then they auction the trees off for charity. Gives me lots of cool ideas for future themed trees. And then part of me was like, oh, it'd be so much fun to decorate a tree for this. That'd be such a blast. But it was wonderful to go through, and we walked around downtown, looking at like the shops and going into some like the local stores and checking out the things that they had. It was just a really fun thing to go and do. So I'm looking forward to our holiday plans. November was a big push. It was a big push. Got a lot of stuff done with the hopes of slowing down in December. And I'll talk more about, what our homeschool through the holiday plans are in an upcoming video. That's going to be part of a homeschool show and tell series video that's coming out first week of December. And in my December goals, I kind of talk a bit more about, things that I really want to work on this month and the things I want to savor. I've said this many times, like, I've only got so many years left with my kids at home full time, and just want to try to make every moment count. So I appreciate you guys joining me for this wrap and chat video. It's kind of fun to share some different topics with you guys that maybe aren't necessarily homeschool related, but more, mom and family life related. And I know I said I'd probably only get 2 gifts wrapped. Look at that. I got a whole 5. I have so many more to go. So once I stop this, I will definitely be working on the wrapping for a while here and get those out and underneath the tree. So thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. If you enjoy these chats, give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts on the different topics. If there's something interesting that you are studying or seeing in like a Bible study that you're doing, let me know. I love to hear what everybody is looking at. Or if you have great recommendations for me, because like I said, I want to start studying Biblical Hebrew and understanding more about the Hebrew Bible. Let me know if there's any good resources you can share, whether that's podcasts, videos, books, your thoughts and on teens and dating, or your thoughts on how we're kind of handling all of the, kind of the stress that can happen around the holidays. You know, share your thoughts. Let's help each other out here by giving our ideas. Thanks guys again. I'll see you in the next video. Merry Christmas.